I'll never forget the sound that watch made when I finally smashed it. A sharp, metallic snap, like a bone breaking under pressure, followed by the tinkling scatter of gears and glass across the floor. For a second, I just stood there, frozen, staring down at the shattered pieces of the one thing he had ever truly cared about. And then, for the first time in months, I laughed. Not a pretty laugh, not a polite laugh, but a raw, unhinged laugh that came from somewhere deep inside me, the part of me he had nearly destroyed. That's where this story begins, but trust me, the path to that moment was long, painful, and so full of betrayal that I sometimes wonder how I held myself together at all. See, my ex wasn't the worst person on the planet. He wasn't physically abusive. He wasn't some monster you'd read about in the headlines. And maybe that's what made everything he did to me sting even more, because it was all these little insidious things that ate away at my sanity bit by bit. He was the kind of guy who could smile in your face and make you doubt your own feelings at the same time. He knew how to twist words until you started to wonder if maybe you were the crazy one. And for a while, I believed him. I started having manic episodes while I was with him, spiraling out of control, trying desperately to hold on to myself while he stood there pretending he had no part in it. I don't want to dwell too much on that side of things, but I need you to understand the headspace I was in. I wasn't just heartbroken when we broke up. I was shattered. From the very beginning of our relationship, there were warning signs. He was charming, almost too charming. He had this way of drawing me in, making me feel like I was the center of his world. But that attention came with strings, invisible threads that tightened around me every time I didn't meet his unspoken expectations. If I didn't respond to his texts quickly enough, suddenly I was cold. If I wanted to spend time with friends, I was selfish. He would twist these moments into proof that I didn't really care about him, and then he'd sulk until I bent over backwards to prove myself again. And every time I did, I lost a little piece of who I was. The watch became symbolic long before the breakup. He wore it like a badge of honor. It was his way of saying, I come from something. I have value. I'm important. And because he valued it so much, I took it seriously too. I remember once early in our relationship, I reached for it absent-mindedly while it was sitting on the dresser, and he snatched it away like I had just grabbed a live grenade. Don't touch that, he snapped, his tone so sharp it left me stunned. And then, just as quickly, he softened and laughed it off, saying he was just protective of it. But in that moment, I realized the watch wasn't just an object. It was his identity wrapped up in gears and glass, the one thing he could control, polish, show off, and know it would never betray him. When the breakup came, it wasn't some explosive blowout. It was quiet, almost unclimactic. By then, I was worn down, a shadow of myself. I told him I couldn't do it anymore, that I needed space to heal. He shrugged, as if it didn't matter. But then, in that same breath, he asked for the watch back. Not for me, not for my things, just for the watch. I said I'd return it. Part of me still clung to the idea of ending things respectfully, like two adults. But looking back now, that was the first cruel twist of the knife. He cared more about the watch than about me. He had things at his place too. My journals, filled with years of writing, gifts from my grandmother, a necklace from my best friend, even little things like ticket stubs in photographs, memories captured in fragile paper and ink, things that carried pieces of my soul. When I asked for them back, he told me he'd pack them up. I believed him because I wanted to believe there was at least a shred of decency left in him. Weeks went by. I called, I texted. He stalled, dodged, made excuses. Until finally, one mutual friend, who had been at his apartment, let it slip. He had thrown everything away. Bags of my life, tossed into the dumpster, like garbage. He hadn't even kept the box aside. He had wiped me out of existence. That revelation broke me in ways I can't even describe. I remember sitting on the floor of my room, staring at an empty spot where my journals used to sit, realizing they were gone forever. All the pages where I had poured my heart, my dreams, my struggles, It was like someone had burned pieces of my soul. And he did it without hesitation. That's when I started looking at the watch differently. At first, it was just this object I had promised to return, but slowly it transformed into a mirror of my pain. Every time I saw it, I thought of my necklace, my journals, my memories rotting in some landfill, and the anger grew. For weeks, I waged a silent war with myself. Part of me wanted to stick to my promise, hand it back to him, and close that chapter of my life with dignity. Another part of me, the part he had silenced for so long, wanted blood. I'd pick up the watch, hold it in my hand, feel its weight. I'd imagine the look on his face if he lost it. The idea became intoxicating, but every time, guilt crept in. I'd tell myself, no, don't stoop to his level. But then I'd hear the echo of my belongings hitting the bottom of a trash can, and my resolve would harden again. 2 months after the breakup, I couldn't take it anymore. It was a rainy afternoon, the kind that makes the whole world feel heavy. I picked up the watch, stared at it one last time, and walked outside. The street was slick with water, reflecting the gray sky. I held it high, took a breath, and let it drop. The first crack was satisfying, but not enough. I picked it up, slammed it harder, again and again until the glass face shattered completely, the hands bent out of shape, the gears spilling out like entrails. I stood over the wreckage, breathing hard, soaked in rain and adrenaline, and then something inside me snapped free. I swept the pieces into the gutter with my foot, and for the first time in months, I felt a strange, giddy lightness, like I had taken back a piece of myself he could never touch again. But fate has a twisted sense of humor. Months later, when I thought I'd finally buried all traces of him, I stumbled across one of his old social media accounts. I don't even know why I clicked. It was just curiosity, a morbid pull, and there it was, a post about the watch. He was reminiscing about it, writing about how much it had meant to him, how it reminded him of better times. He spoke about it like it was the one constant in his life, the thing that had anchored him. Reading it, I felt this sharp pang of guilt, like maybe I had gone too far. Maybe destroying it had been crueler than I realized. But then the image of my journals came rushing back. The necklace from my grandmother. The pieces of me that he had decided were worthless. He hadn't spared a thought about how it would feel to lose those things. He hadn't cared. So why should I? In that moment, the guilt faded, replaced by a quiet, resolute satisfaction. He had taken everything from me, and I had taken one thing from him. Not for revenge, not really, but for balance. And that's what I want to ask you. What would you have done in my shoes? Be honest. Would you have kept that promise to return the watch, even after he destroyed everything that mattered to you? Or would you have done exactly what I did, and made sure he knew what it felt like to lose the one thing he truly cared about? Because when I look back on it now, I realize that breaking that watch wasn't just about him. It was about me, taking back a little piece of power in a situation where I had felt powerless for so long. Sometimes revenge isn't about getting even. It's about finding a way to remind yourself that you matter, that your pain is real, that you're not disposable no matter how someone tries to make you feel. And for me, that reminder came in the form of a shattered watch, glinting in the sunlight as if to say, "You're still here, and he can't take that from you." And maybe the watch wasn't just a watch. Maybe it was a symbol, not just of his pride, but of my decision to stop being a doormat, to stop letting people trample over my feelings, my memories, my worth. Breaking it wasn't just an act of destruction, it was an act of creation. The creation of a new me, someone who could stand tall again, someone who could laugh, even if that laugh came through tears. So tell me, be honest. If you had the chance to take back a little bit of your power, would you have done the same? Or would you have handed it back, smiled politely, and let him walk away with the last word? Because for me, smashing that watch wasn't just payback. It was survival.